Hello, fellow thinkers. Our first podcast is going to be an introduction to philosophy and what we think about the subject. So, Brandon, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Ner. How are you?
I'm doing just fine. I'm at home as we all are, and this is a very good day for me, and I enjoyed the day, and yeah, it's just wonderful to rest.
Sounds great.
So, So, Brandon, today our topic is Introduction to Philosophy. So, why don't we start by defining what philosophy is? So, if you look at a general definition of philosophy, it says that philosophy is the study of the fundamental nature of knowledge, reality, existence, especially when considered as an academic discipline. Humans seem to abide by the ideas of reason and rationality present in philosophical ideas of various thinkers. Um, and for me, philosophy in its core is our mindful journey to understanding our own universe's nature and human nature as well. So, how about you, Brandon? What's your own definition of philosophy?
My own definition of philosophy is thinking, because I think that whenever you try to figure something out or you try to think about something, you're just doing like a more simplified version of what like the people who we know as philosophers what they do. So I
Yeah,
think that we're essentially just figuring out like what the hell is up with everything, our life, the universe. Like we're just figuring everything out, and I think that's beautiful.
yeah, I do too. So Brandon, if I may ask, how did you start learning philosophy? What was your kind of, what was your the reason? What was the reason for you to go on to learn philosophy?
So, what actually got me interested in philosophy was a combination of two things. The first was I was talking with my grandpa about ancient Greece, and that prompted me to like get interested to ancient Greek philosophers. And then what got me interested into like more recent philosophy was in history class when we were learning about how like each philosopher's ideas impacted historical movements. That just got me really interested into thinking like what would impact like the next historical movement.
Yeah, it's there are various ideas and ideals that have shaped history, and most of them came from fellow philosophers and thinkers. Um, it's very interesting. For example, I especially this year when I was learning about world history, I seem to find that the ideas of for example Thomas Hobbes and John Locke seem to influence like the majority of history because and also Plato. There's the famous allegory of the cave, which I would like to talk about in one of our upcoming episodes. And overall, I think philosophy is necessary for us to understand even our own nature. And how I started in philosophy, that's a good question. I started learning about philosophy um, when I was about 12 years old, so like 2 years from 2 years ago. And I studied history for a while, and I seem to um, subscribe to the ideas of democracy, and I was just wondering about uh, how did it start? And I started with Greek philosophers, as many of us have, as you have, and uh, the course of history have has shown to be affected by Greek philosophers for a while now, and also I'm coming from Turkey, which is like very close to Greece, and uh, like we have a lot of history in that region, and that was kind of like a spiritual like kind of experience for me because I could connect to all these philosophers and how they felt, you know.
Do you
And
remember what the first book of philosophy that you read was?
the first book of philosophy, I think it was Treatises of Government by John Locke.
Oh, that's
And
very interesting.
I think that was the first one. And also, I think I read the Allegory of the Cave when I was in, what was it, in seventh grade. It was very interesting. But also, I've also read The Republic, Plato's Republic by when I was in eighth grade, and it was a very good read, and I would recommend it. So those were kind of like the first books. As you can imagine, they were mostly political, and you know, they talked about how the universe provided us with these like natural rights, and how government should be made to protect those rights. And that was it. That was kind of like the beginning for me.
Yeah, for me, the first book of philosophy that I read, I didn't understand it at all. It was called The Groundwork of the Metaphysics of Morals by
Hmm.
Immanuel Kant, and it was very complicated and I understood nothing, but it kind of got me really interested in reading more. So,
Yeah, and yeah, I love philosophy, and you know, books, especially. I don't think I was in the right age group to read Plato's Republic, but still, it was it. Yeah, I enjoyed it, and uh, after reading Plato's Republic, I remember reading Machiavelli's The Prince, which is like very um, which tells which is basically like a how-to book for governing and how to govern. Uh, and you know, it's it comes against like all these kind of religious presets um, of
of the
Machiavelli's
time.
time, the Renaissance, and it was genuinely good to have gotten an idea of governing. And yeah, that. So as you can see, like many of us come into kind of the kind of philosophy with political philosophers and their ideas, and um, what and many of us still see it that way in society. But I think it truly exceeds that, and it's like it ranges from uh, like metaphysics to logic, aesthetics, epistemology, ethics, and um, yeah, that's about it for me and how I started. So, Brandon, what was your favorite book that you have read about philosophy?
So to pick a favorite book would be pretty hard, but one of my favorite books I've written due to how it's like affected me, I guess, even though I don't agree with a lot of the things in it, it's The Ego and Its Own, or The Unique and Its Property by Max Stirner.
Hmm.
Because before reading Max Stirner, everything I read was kind of like nothing was on his level of what felt to me like craziness. But
Yes.
the way Max Stirner kind of like he takes no hostages. He does what he wants and he writes a book about why, right? And I really admire him for his like I don't know how to phrase this, but I really admire Max Stirner for the way he was willing to put his ideas out there no matter like how crazy they sound.
Yeah.
And
I haven't read Max Stirner.
so for Max Stirner, he's a very egoistic philosopher. He's like he's very his basic thing is that things such as morality, religion, like family, like order in society, they're all spooks, and they should all be disintegrated with extreme prejudice. They are
Mhm.
hidden social constructs that control the actions of humans and should like be destroyed. And
So, okay.
and this is a obviously very unpopular view, right? But the fact that somebody could put this pen on paper and kind of exposed me to these new ideas fascinated me in a way that nothing ever else has really. And that's kind of what really got me into philosophy.
Wow, I can understand. That's philosophy is truly amazing. And um, so is he kind of like a nihilistic philosopher?
He's very connected with nihilism, but not really. I wouldn't describe him as one of those like, oh, it's meaningless. Let's just all do nothing all day. I don't describe him as one of those people because he had some ideas which we can get into in a later episode about how like there's no like I just wouldn't describe him as one of those completely nihilistic types. No.
Yeah, yeah, I can understand. There's this thinking that, religion was kind of made to create these taboos in society. And, which, I think in a way, like most people kind of try to soar away from, and move away from religion because of that. But for me, I think it's it's I think a good thing that religion creates these taboos and what to do, what not to do, because it creates kind of this moral standard to build, civilization upon, and that makes a difference between, um, you know, I'm not against atheism and like those uh kind of moral thoughts, but for me, I think religion kind of creates that ground. If for example in Christianity and in the Ten Commandments it says thou shalt not kill, that's I think like one of the that's that's a taboo in itself. If you kill someone, you get cast away from society, and um, which means uh, you will not be able to reproduce likely, and uh, that's just seems to be one of the big you know one of the big reasons for people to stay in line and keep order.
That's actually a really good point that not a lot of people bring up, which is the connection that like evolution has to how society develops. Because
Yes.
like as you just pointed out, if you can't reproduce, like your genes are going to self-select to a certain extent so that like you get into a situation where you can reproduce, which includes like adhering to the standard of not killing people, right? And
Yeah.
but there's another point that some people make on this topic, which is that if the Israelites had thought killing was okay, they wouldn't have gotten to the mountain to get the Ten Commandments because they all would have been dead, right?
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah, I
another
can
point
see
about
that
that.
point.
But yeah, that's a really interesting topic. Yeah.
And it's I believe eventually people tend to subscribe to these religions because it also gives them like belonging in a group, and that also relates to philosophical ideas. And um you want to belong in a group where you're like, oh, it's not only me, it's like these humans around me also. That's basic natural instinct of humans, and you don't want to be alone ever.
Yeah,
And unless it's like, you know I think humans and being in groups will stay together for a while, and that's basically our only means of survival in this world in a way, other than intelligence. And um, I also think that, you know, um, people keep talking about the ideas of utopia and, Karl Marx, like every philosopher kind of has this idea of utopia. For Pluto, it was two philosophical kings, and for others, it was different. For John Locke, it was, respect my rights and,
I'll
the
respect
government
yours.
can stay. And I think, I think that just for for there to be a utopia, first of all, there needs to be no corruption. And also, I believe that the idea of utopia is pretty much, like it's not a good idea because for people to live in a utopia, first of all, you need to change humans to robots. You need to take the thought away from them and make them all seem as equal, to each other. But
Yeah,
that's another topic because we always want to. But that also connects to my point of belonging in a group. I'm in this group, you're in that group. We fight. We have this differences,
yeah,
even though you know for many it's like it's the concept of race, religion. It's like my religion is A, your religion is B. Let's fight and kill each other. And it's actually really ingrained in the in our genes and evolution after all.
yeah. You brought up an interesting point about like utopias. And one of the most interesting like exercises in philosophy, I think, is to like imagine what a utopia is,
Yeah.
because it necessarily entails like having like a developed moral sense, right? So
Hmm.
in a bunch of these utopias that we've seen, or attempted utopias or utopias in works of fiction, a common theme is that people are able to do whatever they want and they never harm each other. There seems to be an unlimited amount of resources to satisfy the unlimited demands of people. But this
Hmm.
is called like the central economic problem, which is the entire reason we have to distribute resources. Because there aren't unlimited resources, but we do have unlimited desires. So we
Of
got to
course.
figure out how to distribute resources in the best way. And this is some people consider economics like a field of philosophy because certain people, such as like Karl Marx, Ludwig von Mises, like the big economic people, have all grounded their works in philosophy, which is
Hmm.
another show of how important philosophy is and of its like implications in the world.
Yeah, of course, of course. I mean, it's no doubt that you know we still hold these philosophers to be changing our lives every day. It's no doubt that. And I think we should later on do an episode on um utopias and the ideas of utopia. I think preview for my argument over there. I think it's not good, but we'll discuss it, like later on in another episode. And I think it's like everyone has their own idea about a utopia, but it doesn't seem to work. So, Brandon, how would you describe philosophy's impact on your life? Is it positive? How has it affected you?
Philosophy has had an interesting impact on my life. There's a massive upside and a massive downside. The massive upside is that I feel I've gotten way smarter. I've increased my knowledge on countless subjects, and I, yeah, and I've basically like improved the human that I am. And that's a massive upside. But there's also been
Hmm.
an interesting massive downside, which is that like a lot of my confidence in certain things has just been destroyed by certain philosophers who have like argued against things that I believed, right? And they sometimes did that successfully. And it kind of made me like question myself, question society. And I think that's a very productive thing, but it's also like bad to do it too much at one time, you know?
Yeah, yeah, and uh, yeah, I agree. And uh, other than this, for if you ask for philosophy's impact on my life, um, well, you know, I've especially enjoyed Stoic thought in my life and tried to improve myself upon those kind of ideals. Um, and its philosophy overall has had a massive impact on me. Um, it has changed my life. You know, um, philosophy in my mind is not primarily about changing people around me, but changing myself first in order to create my environment, whatever that is. And um, I think the reason for that, Bill, is that um, when you read enough philosophy, you realize that it's really childish to say that, oh, I want this, and my idea is wonderful because it it's good to you, but after like a year or so, you're not going to subscribe to it anymore. You're just going to say, oh, you know what, I was thinking differently back then. It's every second and every day of our lives that we change our ideas, and um I think that's only natural. It's After all, that's what education is for. Don't you agree? It's like to change yourself. And I believe philosophy for me mainly has been an education on life and what I should to improve myself. And um, I think that was the massive upside to it.
Yeah, I completely agree because knowledge and bettering yourself, I think I don't know what else could be better than that for me. It might differ person to person in what drives you, in what satisfies you, in what is your essence. But yeah, for me that's just crazy good.
Yeah. Um, so thank you everyone for tuning in to our episode today. This was Introduction to Philosophy and kind of our own ideas about philosophy in general. Uh, as weeks go by, we plan to upload by uh, every Sunday. And um, in those episodes, we will tend to talk about, stuff like, you know, philosophical thoughts and, our own thoughts. And it would be very nice to have you all as listeners and fellow thinkers. So, thank you all for watching, and we wish to see you next time with our second podcast episode, which will likely be on nihilism. Thank
Yeah,
you all.
thank you
Bye
guys.
bye.